I've just got up here now the docs for the manual installation. So there's basically 6 steps you would need to follow. So the first is that you would download the FusionReactor jar and debug libraries. So in case you're not familiar, the debug libraries I use for the event snapshot and the actual debugger of FusionReactor. So what these are, they're actually C native libraries, so we can interact with the low-level JVM through the JVM CI library. There is one per operating system, so there's one for Mac, one for Windows, one for Linux. You can get these files from various places. So most of you will probably have got these from the download page of FusionReactor. If you're on the download page, you can simply scroll to the section 2, and they're under this Java Agent Manual Installation tab. In our case, we're not actually going to use this. We're going to use latest links, basically so that we always guarantee each time you build your image or you run your server, you just get new copies of the files. You're always up to date without doing anything. The second step is to create a directory structure for FusionReactor. So typically you would do this either in opt for Linux, C for Windows, or applications for Mac. And then the directory structure will be FusionReactor instance and then instance name. When you have these files, you can actually then do the install. So at this point, you have your files within the FusionReactor directory. All we now need to do is configure the Java args. To do that, you are required to basically restart the application server. So whether that be Tomcat, Undertow, Wildfly, whatever it may be. So when you're actually configuring these args, there are various places they can be. For Tomcat, it's usually the setm file. If you've got a fat jar, they're actually in the run command, Maven ops. Depending on what you're running, it's in these different locations. We're going to cover quite a few of these today, and then we do have specific examples for anything else if you do need them. So in terms of what we're going to do today, so we have a few examples we're going to go through for you. We have an example of a fat jar deployment in Docker. We have a Tomcat deploy in Docker. We have a Cold Fusion deploy in Docker, and then we have a command box example. And we're each going to do a few of these and guide you through. So where we're actually going to start is with a fat jar in Docker. So to do that, I have a basic example set up, which will be in my IDE. So in my IDE, I have a simple setup where I have a Docker file and a main.jar. And that's all I'm running right now. So I extend from OpenJDK, I add my main jar to the up directory, and then in my run command, I simply do java -jar with the jar name. And that's all I have in my current Docker file. But what we're going to do now is we're actually going to add FusionReactor. So to do that, it's a fairly simple process, and we do have docs that are kind of going to guide us through this. So the first thing we need to do is create a FusionReactor directory. So to do this, I'm going to do this above the run command, and I'm just going to type run so we can run an actual command on the machine, and I'm going to use mkdir to create a directory, -p so we create the full path, and then as this is a Linux machine, it will be /opt/FusionReactor /instance/ example. And this will actually give us our instance directory. So that's step 1 done. Now we need to add the files. And to do that, we're going to use the latest URLs. So if I quickly jump back to the docs, which are here, what we have under installation in our docs is getting the latest version by URL, and this is what we're going to use. So the first thing we need is the single jar. So I'm just going to copy this link, and then in my Docker file, I'm just going to use the add command, paste my link, and then I'm just going to place it in the directory we created a second ago. And now I'm going to repeat the process for the lib file. So again, use the add command. Then I'm going to get the URL from the docs. This is Linux, so we need the SO extension. paste the URL, and then again, we're going to put our path to the instance. And that's us adding the config files. So this is effectively the same for any Docker install you're running. So later when we do the Tomcat install, we're just going to copy these 3 args straight out. We're not going to recreate them. We're just going to use them that we already have because they will work. So we started with these top 2 lines here and then the bottom line. So we've added our mkdir command to create the directory and our 2 add commands. And this, we're now at the point where all we need to do is configure our Java args. So with this being a fat jar, you don't have a configuration file as such. And in our case, we're not using environment variables. We're just going to pass them straight in. So to do that, we do this. We add a space after the Java command. And here we're going to add our args. So you need a Java agent. So minus Java agent : /opt/ FusionReactor /instance /example FusionReactor.jar. And here we can set an instance name. So equals name equals example. And then we can do comma address equals, and this is the port it binds to. So I'm just going to use 8088, which is the default. That's FusionReactor running. We just need the agent path for the debug library now. So this is just another argument. So minus agent path : and then your path to your directory again. / and the file name, you can copy this from the docs. I've just done it so much I kind of know it off by heart. So it's lib_fr_jvmti_x64.so. And this is our agent path configured. And if you are looking to follow on the docs, if you go to the docs, there is a specific page called FusionReactor in Docker, which is again under installation. And here you can see this is basically what we're doing. So we've taken these commands and we're adding these arguments here. So this is documented for you. And what we've effectively done now is install FusionReactor. So it should all be working. And the test for this is to simply build the Docker. So if I go into the directory, and then I can just do a Docker build command -t here. And you'll see it's created a directory on step 3, and now it's going to get the latest files for us. And if this works, we can now do docker run fatjar. And then what you'll see the FusionReactor block near towards the top, which indicates the debug library is running. And then if we go further down, we see the FusionReactor block. So this proves that FusionReactor is running on this server, and that's all that's required. So it's really that simple. It's 4 commands in your Docker file. It's just knowing where to put these, basically. So I'm just going to move to the next install now, and this is actually a Tomcat server-based install. So Tomcat is very slightly different. I'm just going to quickly guide you through. So this is the actual Docker file. So we root from Tomcat, and then we add our app, and we don't need to touch the run command. It'll automatically run for us. So we don't need to do anything here. What we're actually going to do in our case is if we go to the fatjar Docker file, we're going to copy our 3 mkdir and add commands straight out of Docker, straight out of the Docker file. And we can just place these straight at the end of the Docker file. Because we've already written them, we don't need to do it twice. So that's steps 1, 2, and 3 done. We have our files, we have the instance directory. Now what we need to do is actually just add the Java args, and I'm not going to type them out again. I'm just going to again copy them from my old Docker file. So we need the agent, Java agent, and agent path. And then I'm going to go to my Tomcat Docker file. And in Tomcat, you have to use an env, which is called Java ops. So with Docker, you just type env, and you can do Java_ops equals, and then you would need your string. And in our case, we put the same args we had on the last server. And it's that simple for the Tomcat install. It's the same process as before. All we've done is change where we put the Java args. So if I stop my fatjar application, and then cd into the Tomcat. And then if I now build the Tomcat Docker file, you'll see again, it will make the directory and it will pull the files. And then when this is done, we should have our image. Okay. So now if we run our Tomcat image, we'll see again, we have the FusionReactor block. And then immediately afterwards at the top, we have our agent block. So we know it's now confirmed and running. And that is actually the essence of installing in Docker. So that's the basics of how you would install in Docker in any environment.